Michael Steele, who dubbed himself the Angel of Death, was given 3 life sentences. He's said to have laughed uncontrollably after killing the men. The pair were trapped by Darren Nichols, the driver of the killer's getaway car, who turned supergrass. It was his evidence that would prove crucial in the conviction of the 2 men.
Michael Steele, now 80, and his accomplice Jack Worms, 62, were jailed for life over the gangland shooting of 3 men who were found dead in a Range Rover near a farm in Rettendon, Essex. And now, Steele faces a 2-day parole board grilling. Patrick Tate, 37, Anthony Tucker, 38, and Craig Rolfe, 26, who were part of the Essex Boys drug gang, were killed with a pump-action shotgun in December 1995 in what is believed to have been a row over drugs. The decision to give Steele a 2-day hearing reflects the complexity and sensitive nature of the case, which recently came to national attention again in the Essex Murders, a new Sky documentary series which launched in April. The murders also inspired the 2000 movie Essex Boys, starring actor Sean Bean. While Steele has been behind bars ever since, Worms was released in 2021 after serving a reduced sentence of 22 years. Both Worms and Steele have continued to insist that they had nothing to do with the murders. Steele will appear before the 3-day parole panel sometime in May and will give evidence. The panel is being asked to recommend he be released on licence. At the hearing, the panel will take oral evidence from Steele's community-based probation officer, the official responsible for supervising his case in prison, and a psychologist employed by the prison service. The panel will also have access to Steele's prison dossier. The security of state will also be represented. The parole hearing will be scrutinised by Justice Security Dominic Raab, who under new powers has the right to ask the parole board to reconsider any decision to release Steele. The high-profile hearing has been given more significance by a new TV documentary in which a former police detective who worked on the case states that dominoes will start to fall and the murder investigation will be reopened. David McKelvey, now a private investigator who retired from the Met Police in 2010, features in the new documentary. Mr. McKelvey, who was involved in the original response to the murders, thinks Steele and Worms are innocent. Credible lines of investigation were not followed, he told the programme. I think the programme will open a door, and I think once the door is open, the dominoes will start to fall, and hopefully, touch wood, with the new material, we've got someone who will take that material on board. The murders occurred on the 6th of December 1995 on a small farm track in Rettendon. The bodies of the 3 men were found the following morning by farmer Peter Fairbold and his friend Ken Jiggins. All the victims were shot with a pump-action shotgun. Tate sustained injuries to the head and body, while Rolfe and Tucker died from head wounds. Essex police were soon alerted by the witnesses and launched an investigation led by Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley. At the time, Detective Superintendent Dibley said, "This was not an ordinary murder. It looks as if they were enticed down there. As far as murders go, you don't get any more serious than this." Worms and Steele were found guilty at London's Old Bailey of the killings 2 years later and received 3 life sentences with a minimum of 15 years. The key witness was police informer Darren Nichols from Braintree, Essex, who claimed he was the getaway driver for the murders. Evidence given at the trial included disputed mobile phone data, which was subsequently lost. This included much of the tape recordings of Nichols' interrogation. Sentencing the pair, Mr. Justice Hidden said, "There is little that can be said usefully to either of you at this stage. You 2 men were responsible in my views for taking away their lives in a violent and summary way. You lured them to a quiet farm track and executed them." Mr. McKelvey arrested Darren Nichols in May 1996 for drug offences before he became the so-called Supergrass, and says evidence sent to him 4 years ago by defence lawyers raised doubts. Lawyers for both Steele and Worms have claimed the getaway story was fabricated. The Court of Appeal rejected applications brought by the defendants in 2006, 2013 and 2016, and the CCRC, Criminal Cases Review Commission, decided as recently as January not to refer an appeal back to the courts. Essex police said the case was exhaustively examined and there was no fresh evidence to dispute the original verdicts. Steele has already served 24 years for murder. In 2021, Worms was released on licence and returned to his mother's Suffolk home. A spokesperson for the Parole Board said, "A 2-day oral hearing has been listed for the parole view of Michael Steele and is scheduled to take place in May 2023. Parole Board decisions are solely focused on what risk a prisoner could represent to the public if released, and whether the risk is manageable in the community. A panel would examine a huge range of evidence, including details of the original crime and any evidence of behaviour change, as well as explore the harm done and impact the crime has had on the victims. Members read and digest hundreds of pages of evidence and reports in the lead up to an oral hearing. Evidence from witnesses including probation officers, psychiatrists, officers supervising the offender in prison, and psychologists, as well as victim personal statements, are then given at the hearing. The prisoner and witnesses are then questioned at length during the hearing, which often lasts a full day or more. Parole reviews are undertaken thoroughly and with extreme care. Protecting the public is our number one priority.